It's been about a year and 4 months, or a total of 503 days since I graduated high school. And as a college student, I've been asking this one question to myself a lot recently. And that question is, if you could go back to high school, what's the one thing that you would change? And my answer is, I would have confessed my feelings to a girl that I had a crush on back then, if I could have gone back to high school. Now I feel like nothing would make sense if I didn't give a little bit of a backstory to it, so I kind of wanted to talk about my high school life and things about a girl that I can probably never stop missing even after how long it has been. It all started when I transferred to my new high school in 2022 when I was still 15. Let's just kind of call it Gravewood High. Back in Gravewood, I was actually starting to attend the 10th year of high school, and although it was a private school, I did have to deal with a bit of bullying in that year. In that year of high school, I was met with a small class, and because I was a transfer student from a state middle school, I could say that I had a really terrible sense of humor back then. I was laughing a lot for no apparent reasons, and doing many weird and stupid things, which I'll get to in a bit. Initially when I got there, the first thing I ended up doing was trying to socialize with every guy in my classroom, and well, that didn't end well at all. Back then, when I tried talking to Dennis, he would always shut me up for no reason at all. And sometimes he would pick on me in ways that looked like we were being friendly by either squeezing my shoulders or worse, choking my neck when he's mad at me over literally nothing. Kevin would always be the guy that would break us up, and he was a fairly nice guy, but he didn't talk to me properly when we first met. At first, Alex barely talked, but once he got comfortable, he pretty much wouldn't shut up. And there's Josh. He would pretty much be late to class by 10 to 15 minutes, like 90% of the time. And I was pretty much the shortest guy in our entire class, and that didn't help at all. I did mention that I was doing many weird and stupid things, and there was this one time where I got super distracted to the point where I would just stare at objects for a really long time. It could be a pen or a book, really. And there's this other time where I was getting bored to the point where I ended up writing a couple of song lyrics on the cover of my book. Before these things happened, there was this one thing that kind of got me. The moment when I walked into my classroom for the first time and met everyone's eyes, there was this girl's eyes that I met. Her name was Maria, and the moment when our eyes met, it felt like the world froze. It was like love at first sight to me back then. I couldn't even explain why. Maybe it was because she reminded me of someone from my old school, or maybe it was just the way she carried herself, but something about her always hit me differently. My situation in the first year of high school was, I was doing many weird and stupid things, and not only that, I was being incredibly socially awkward, which made most of my classmates have a really terrible impression of me. And I still remember the one time where I DM'd Maria on Messenger through her Facebook profile, and because it was a cold opening, it didn't end well at all. And I remember the time when I was having my first ever exam in Gravewood. I got overwhelmed and failed a couple subjects. Well, it might also had something to deal with me being incredibly sick before the test even started. Sometime later, I was able to recover and start passing every test. Eventually, everyone did get comfortable with each other and we all started talking to each other more casually. I didn't talk much back then, but if someone talked to me, I would always reply something back. And there's this one thing that I could always remember in year 10 where I tried cheating in an exam for the very first time in high school and got caught anyway. Months before year 10 was ending, we had our Christmas event. And during that time, I didn't really do much, but it was definitely an event that's much more massive compared to what I've ever experienced in my state middle school. And about Maria, I did have a crush on her back then, and there was this time window when Josh and Maria did start dating for a few months until they split up later. And I ended up doing nothing. Like literally nothing at all, even after they split up. After finishing year 10, Greyfoot had its summer camp event in March. And back then, I wasn't planning on going. But I had to because my mom signed me up before I could even react. And during that event, I did get a little bit disappointed because only the boys showed up. And back then, I was expecting to see Maria. She did show up, but it was only when we were wrapping up. For some dumb reason, there was this one time where I acted on my impulse and actually confessed to another girl that I had a crush on, all because, well, I liked her voice. It didn't last long, and looking back at it now, I'm glad that I didn't, because it was something that you do as an impulsive teenager. Summer ended with me just playing video games with Andy, Kevin, and a guy named Hector. But even then, Maria was still the one that I couldn't stop thinking about. Year 11 started somewhere in June in 2023. Describing year 11 is like dancing to no music because nothing really happened much back then. Josh and Renna left, so they were in year 11 with us. We had a new transfer student in our class called Zach, and he was a pretty chill guy. I remember back then, he was making a lot of offensive jokes, which was also something that made me laugh a lot as well. He did have a crush on Maria as well, but I don't think he did anything. But there was this one time where he didn't come to class, and when the teacher asked Alex whether if he had actually told him that he failed physics or not, he told the teacher that when they were playing PUBG with Kevin the night before, Alex did tell him about it, but he ended up reacting to it by saying that someone will comfort him, which obviously didn't happen. During that year, I was also dozing off a lot more in classes. It's something that also happened in year 10 and would continue happening in year 12 as well, but it's just that it was only getting worse every year. In year 11, I also missed classes for 2 weeks straight because I was on a trip to Taiwan. I also remember the time when my new special English teacher, let's just call her Teacher Sant, got super mad at me because I didn't do any of her homework assignments like 80% of the time. Back then, she would always yell at me in front of everyone like it's nothing. Sometimes I did care about it, but sometimes I just didn't bother at all. Copying homework had always been something that I would do most of the time, even in year 10 and year 12. There were times where I would quickly do Mr. C's homework by simply copying it from Kevin on the very next day. Maria was also very helpful back then, and she did help me out a lot back in year 10, and she would continue helping me out in year 11 and year 12 as well. There was also this one time where I would try copying Kevin's answers in physics class just because I didn't know how to solve most of the problems. Well, he didn't let me. Sometime later, Maria called me over to her desk and helped me out by teaching me things. Except I didn't know 90% of the stuff. Back then, it was in these dead silent moments, or maybe at times when I was doing something, or maybe I was the class leader of the day and I was filling markers. In these little moments, she would call me cute, and that would make me shy and look away just to put a smile on it, and everyone would just know it. Maybe she had her own reasons for that compliment, but it felt different because it was for the first time ever someone outside of my known circles had given me compliments, and it was probably something that she said casually, but back then, I always saw it as something significant. Zach was the guy that kind of dragged me deeper into cars and car culture, which was something that I was already interested in. So his presence kind of made me dive deeper into those things way easier than before. And back then, we would always talk about stuff like cars, modifications, street racing and drifting, and other types of motorsports during break time, like a lot. And year 11 was also the year that we boys started cheating in the exams more obviously. And every time when the teacher would look away, I would turn my head and copy from Zach. And there was this one time when Mr. Liam realized that something about me was off. He walked over to me to make sure that I didn't start cheating again, but by that time, Dennis would copy answers from Kevin, and it was just too much to deal with, so we got away with it anyway. There was also another Christmas event months before we had our final exam and finished year 11, but I didn't do much either back then. And as year 11 ended, it also became another year that I didn't act on my feelings. Although Gravewood had another summer camp event in March 2024, looking back at it now, it wasn't too boring, but nothing really happened either. In that year though, Denise and every guy in our class except for Dennis participated in that event. I didn't do much back then, and honestly, I couldn't even remember what I did back then. I pretty much did many things in summer. There were times when I was participating in those events. There were times when I was talking to and laughing with my friends. And there were times when I was lost in deep thoughts. Maybe it was because I knew that I might have to leave many things behind. after year 12. Or maybe it was because of the uncertainty of my future. Back then, everyone was on vacation if they're not in the summer camp event. And I kept hoping for Maria to show up, even if it meant that she could only show up when we were wrapping up. But this time, she never showed. Year 12 began in May 2024, which was earlier than usual. But it was reasonable because it was the year where we're going to be taking the final university entrance examination. Dennis and Tina both transferred to another school, leaving only the 7 of us. Back then, all of us were studying like crazy, and I was doing the same too. I remember having 2 tuitions got me okay enough grades on the subjects that mattered more and would actually be a part of the final examination. But my social science was very laughable. And on some days, I would skip school once or twice a week just to study. Maria still called me cute, but there was this one time where she fell sick just because she stayed up late to study for the sake of higher grades. And back then, I wish I could have said something. Maybe tell her to not stay up too late, try too hard and die. Even if it meant that staying up late couldn't kill you. There was also one funny thing I did back then, where I would slick a historical figure's hairstyle and add a pair of sunglasses just to make them look as bad as possible. There was also this class gathering event that I went to, and everyone did too because it was the last year of high school. And back then, we went for lunch, did many stupid stuff, and went to a photo booth. During that time, I would look at everyone, especially Maria, like multiple times. But after each time, I would always get back to what I was doing, just so that I don't look weird. Before year 12 ended, there was also a Christmas event, but this time I was actually the MC and actually did something. And there were times when I stayed up late to study for the finals, but I never lasted and went to bed anyway. And before I went to bed, there were times when I would watch 1 or 2 episodes of Peaky Blinders instead of studying for a few more minutes. However, when it was finally the exam day, I was able to answer almost everything. And after the last day of the exam, all of us would hop back onto the school bus together, return to school, then go home with our parents. And it was at that time I realized that everyone's done now, and I didn't even get to do something big. But back then, I didn't know what I didn't do. Sometime later, I found out that I passed the final exam and started learning how to drive in my parents' hometown called, well, let's just call it Andorra, which was miles away from where I lived. Everything was fine, and our lives were going according to our routines. But one night, I had a dream. A dream where I got married with someone, and even though the other person didn't have a face, I can tell who that was based on the silhouette. When I drove, I would always have to drive to my family's farms. But after that night, there were times when I would stand on the balcony of the house that was built beside one of the farms and start thinking about the possibilities and outcomes instead of doom scrolling on my phone. It's a thing that I would change if I could go back to high school, because maybe it could be because of nostalgic reasons, or maybe it's because I still like her. College is a place where you're turning into someone different compared to who you used to be. So maybe it just automatically makes me think about things like this at times. Sometime later, when I talked to a friend about it, he taught me something valuable. You can never tell what the future holds or what the past hid from you. I mean, yeah, he's not wrong about it. Those things are only possibilities now. Maybe it could happen. Maybe it could never happen. And even if it did happen, maybe it worked out. Maybe it didn't work out. But either way, we can only hope for the better and live our lives in a way that actually makes us happy